Afternoon.
The time for this debate has expired. Honourable members, we now come to the general debate. So would some honourable member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business? And I understand the Labor Party has the call.
Speaker,
I call the honourable member Annette King.
Mr Speaker, that's been a very interesting debate. And what it shows us is that New Zealanders cannot trust this national John Key-led government. But we have seen confidence in this government reach basement level over the last 2 or 3 weeks. In fact, there's been a slow drip, drip, drip on the stone of confidence now for about the last year. It's reached basement bottom now. And why? Because what we have from the National Party are a lot of very arrogant members, very dismissive of any suggestions and ideas or debates that don't suit their ideas. They are very evasive in their answers. In fact, in this House, I've seen the worst answering of parliamentary questions I have seen in decades. And we've also seen diversions. Whenever an issue arises they're not happy with, they set up a diversion. They usually use Paula Bennett to pull out yet one more of her welfare reforms so we can head off over here bashing up beneficiaries, because that always gets a good headline. So what we have got is a government that cannot be trusted. They'd rather not front up to the issues, they'd rather divert them. And so I think the biggest diversion is the Prime Minister, who heads off to China to get plenty of publicity, knowing that at home there was a report into GCSB that showed he did nothing for 9 months, that he allowed illegal spying to continue on New Zealanders for 9 months. And I think it was summed up by the Dominion Post with this headlines that said, "Illegal spying withheld for months." Illegal spying withheld for months. And, Mr Speaker, so he heads off to China and he leaves his hapless team here in New Zealand. Only somebody leaked the report. Well, I've got a theory about this, Mr Speaker. Mr Key wanted the report to be leaked. He wanted it to be leaked because poor old Bill English is having to stand up in this House day after day, facing a barrage of questions, difficult questions, that John Key does not want to face. And he's hoping when he gets back from China, this might have all blown over and there will be another diversion created by the National Party. Well, I can tell Mr Key this is far too serious for him to think this is going to go away. Because what we need to have is an independent inquiry and review of GCSB. In fact, in my view, of the SIS and the roles that they play in New Zealand. We need that independent review, not some idea that has come from John Key. What does he say on the television this morning? He said, well, he's going to change the law. He said he's going to bring in legislation to allow GCSB to legally spy on New Zealanders. Well, he's going to do that with no consultation with anyone in this House to begin with. He hasn't taken it to the very committee that's been set up for him to consult with. He just gets on television and said, I'm going to change the law and make illegal spying legal. That is not the way you deal with an issue like this. You don't go for the quick fix, fast draw solution. You work through the issues carefully. Perhaps you might even use the legal brain of Chris Finlayson in this respect, but you don't suddenly announce on television that you are going to change the law and the rest of us are all meant to trot along behind. That's not how it's going to be done, and we're going to demand in this Parliament, across the opposition, that there is a proper review of the GCSB and the SIS, a proper look at the roles they play, because I would be very concerned if we were to put together both those roles, because the only country that I know of, the countries that do that, are those that have authoritarian governments, that have organisations like the KGB. We have separated out those two roles, and we need to look very carefully before we make such changes. So, New Zealanders have every right to lose confidence in this government. Illegal spying, what a mess. Then we have all the privacy breaches, the privacy breaches on our watch, says Nick Smith. Let's deal with that. He is such a brain that he sat in the opposition and looked at the legislation that Labor brought in. They went through a select committee, and did he vote for it? Yes, Nick Smith voted for it. The brains trust of the National Party was all right then. Suddenly it's not. New Zealanders have every right to be very suspicious of this government.
The Honourable Minister, Paula Bennett.
Well, Mr Speaker, how ironic that we have a member of the previous Labor government's cabinet who has just sat down